Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Hormone Helper podcast. I'm Coach Andrew, your hormone helper from Fit for All Fitness. I personally coach over 1,600 men and women to help better understand their hormones so they can lose weight and get their metabolism back on track. With this podcast, you're going to hear from me and my special guests about everything from metabolism to thyroid to weight loss. And we even talk a little bit of sexy time as we chat to spread more knowledge thick like butter on your hormones. If you're ready to learn, I'm ready to share, so let's do this. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the podcast. And today's episode is going to be talking about chronic fatigue, why energy levels drop, why you feel like you're super tired all the time, and what chronic fatigue is really hiding, because there are a lot of things that being super tired and super exhausted is connected to that you might not consider might be hormonal, or you might not consider as even an issue, because a lot of the times, let's just face it, people tend to accept stuff. They're like, I feel exhausted. Maybe this is just kind of the way that I should live. And I bring up chronic fatigue this week because I've had several conversations, a few with clients, but two with some people who had just come on to our Hormone Reboot program. And they reached out because they were so exhausted. They're like, Andrew, I'm absolutely burnt out at this point. Like, I don't know what to do. And I want to eat healthy. I want to exercise. I want to start going to the gym, but I'm just so tired. I can barely function as it is. And I get that because chronic fatigue was one of the main issues that I dealt with when I was having my hormonal challenges. So when my hormones were all over the place after my treatment, it took about, I'd say, a year and a half for me to be able to finally get my hormones in a stable place. And during that year's time, I could only work out once or twice a week. I never really felt hungry. I was having a lot of these random cravings, like carbs would come up for cravings, sugar would come up for cravings. And I kept saying to myself, like, what gives? Like, why is this happening? Because this wasn't a thing before. And what a lot of people don't recognize is how much being exhausted all the time can actually affect what you do and can change your level of desire and motivation for something. Because let's face it, you can have all the desire to accomplish something in the world. You can be dead set on losing 30 pounds or having a really solid weight loss goal. And then all of a sudden, you're like, well, today I only have 10% in the tank. So of course you can't give it 100% if you only got 10% coming into whatever your goal is to begin with. So couple of things. I want to talk about chronic fatigue, what it is, where it comes from. So that's a big thing. Being tired, like, I wish I could sleep, that's a lot different than chronic fatigue. Chronic fatigue is the type of thing that somebody experiences where you're going to bed, you're tossing and turning. It's hard for you to stay fully asleep. You might wake up a couple times a night, but regardless of whether you sleep 7 hours or 10 hours, you are completely exhausted. You're exhausted if you take a nap. You're exhausted through the day. Working out doesn't give you any energy. Drinking coffee completely flat doesn't stimulate you whatsoever. And you just feel this sense of like, my body needs to shut down right now. And, you know, sometimes during life, whether you're maybe in a busy part of your career, you're taking on a really, really big job, or you're running a business and you got to, push hard for a couple of months for some launch. Like, it's, I would say regular, or I guess I don't want to say it's normal, but there can be parts of your life where, yeah, sure, maybe for a week or two, you're going to have a little bit of chronic fatigue and then you sleep and it goes away. What I'm talking about here is the chronic fatigue that starts to build and snowball over months and months to the point where you're going, you know what, if I don't take care of this right now, I'm not going to have any energy to do anything, to not see anybody, to not talk to people, to not go out, let alone do things like eat well, work out, and just doing your best to move more. So a couple of things with chronic fatigue, okay? What I typically see as a coach is when people have chronic fatigue, their thyroid is starting to wind down to the point where it can't function anymore. Basically, your level of energy or the amount of gas that you have in your gas tank every single day is directly connected to how much gas you can use. So if we think of our thyroid like a furnace, and I love using this example because it's really easy to understand. Your thyroid's a furnace. We can turn our furnace hotter, in which case we're going to run hotter, burn more calories, burn more energy, run and operate faster, have a faster metabolism. That's what happens when we go hotter. Or we can turn our furnace cooler, in which case we're going to burn less calories, we're going to slow down. Burning less energy means we're going to be colder, and then our metabolism is going to slow down. Usually, when you have a furnace in your house, just like your metabolism, it should be a set it and forget it. So like a lot of the clients where we work and we get our clients to is their metabolism's at a set point. They feel good, they feel high energy, and they're able to keep that energy consistently over multiple years of their life moving forward. That's what we call a stable metabolism. A stable metabolism doesn't change weight, doesn't have issues with digestion, doesn't have any issues with sleep. Your recovery through your workouts is fine, and you're able to exercise every day, not really have an issue with it. Where the thyroid starts to become a problem is usually when there's an energy imbalance. So I like to call this kind of energy expenditure, how much energy you're using through the day, and then our energy intake, what we're actually bringing into the day. Our expenditure and our intake should always be pretty much close to even for us to have a steady and stable metabolism. Where a lot of people start to get chronic fatigue is where they go on extreme diets. Maybe their expenditure, they're using way more energy than they're bringing in because they could have a lot of long-term stress, or maybe they're exercising too hard. Where now the amount of energy we're using in our body is not enough for the body to be able to recover and then make hormones for the next day. While this isn't an issue in the short term, where I see a lot of problems is people start getting into this cycle over months and over years, where they're chronically under eating, where they're chronically overstressed, where they're chronically undersleeping, or they're using too much energy by overworking out. So it's always the extreme of something, and the thyroid is only going to take so much before it says, you know what, I just don't have the energy to support you. So, like any furnace would, if it does not have the fuel or the fire to output whatever temperature you're trying to make or you're trying to put up, then the body's going to say to itself, you know what, I cannot run at this speed, so I'm going to have to shut you down, and I'm going to have to run at a slower speed that I know I can run at and I can maintain. So what does that mean for someone who's going on a really extreme diet, or who's at this point where maybe you're trying to exercise more to hit a goal? What that means is basically the body's going to put everything on hold. It's going to put fat burning on hold because fat's an emergency fuel. It's going to put energy usage on hold because if we're already short energy, why would we use it? It's going to put your body temperature on hold. So you're going to start to feel cold hands and cold feet. And it's going to start to ask you for more energy. You're going to start to get really crazy cravings for sugar, cravings for salt. Your body's going to ask you for that because sugar's direct energy, and things like salt and carbs are other ways. And I've talked about it in a couple, I think it was episode 79, what do cravings mean? I talk about basically what each one means hormonally. But either way, your body's going to ask for those. And by asking for those nutrients, for the food, it's going to be able to try and get the building blocks back to bring your energy back to a normal level. Now, if we keep letting this go long term, this fatigue, this exhaustion, we keep under giving our body, holy cow, we keep basically underfeeding our body, or we keep overusing our body to the point in which we can repair, then we're going to start to get chronic fatigue where it not only affects your thyroid, but it starts to affect these glands called your adrenal glands. So these glands sit on top of your kidneys, and they're responsible for making a hormone called cortisol. which is your stress hormone, but it's also the main fuel source that keeps you awake and functioning during the day. You see, your body runs on two hormones. And a lot of people don't know this. A lot of people think cortisol is bad. It's not bad. Your body runs on two hormones. The first is cortisol, and that's from like 6 a.m. to about 1:30 p.m. And then at 1:30 p.m., as that energy starts to wind down, as cortisol starts to get low, we switch to a hormone called melatonin, which is supposed to be designed to help us build cortisol in the night when we're sleeping. So by the time we go to bed at 8 or 9 p.m., our cortisol is already building for the next day. That's supposed to be a natural cycle that lets us go to bed at a steady time, go to sleep and stay asleep and get a good restful sleep, and then wake up at a steady time every single day like clockwork. So, for example, I wake up 5 a.m. every morning. It's clockwork. I set an alarm just because I'm very anal that way. And I'm like, oh, Lord forbid, for some reason, my internal alarm clock doesn't wake up. But I always beat the alarm clock. I always wake up and I'm like, oh, okay, guess I didn't need it today. But that constant going to bed at 9, waking up at 5 like clockwork day over day is because my body's expenditure and the intake that I'm coming in with my food is so steady and so consistent, and my energy usage is so stable, and my thyroid is such at a stable level that my metabolism doesn't change. That's why it can function so consistently and give me such steady energy. So I share that because we get the cravings. That's the next step. Then the adrenals start to get tired. When your adrenals get tired, you stop making cortisol. So it gets to a point where you don't make it a lot of it, and then you don't make any of it, and then you get what's called adrenal tiredness or adrenal fatigue. This is something that you might hear if you've gone to your naturopath, where they're like, oh, wow, your adrenals are really fatigued. Doesn't mean they're broken. It means that they're so exhausted, your thyroid is now running on basically bare minimum mode, and your adrenals aren't putting any energy for you to be able to function. So, what does that mean? What happens in that case? Well, in that case, you're going to spend every waking day waking up, being exhausted. You use coffee that helps for like an hour and a half. You have a huge crash because guess what? Coffee doesn't give you energy. It just prevents you from feeling the signal of tiredness. You re-get the signal of tiredness. You crash. Then you're going to crash at 10:30 a.m. You're going to crash at 2 p.m. when you shift to melatonin. You're going to crash at 5:30 p.m. And then when it comes to the evening, your body's finally going to have enough energy for you to create just a little bit of cortisol. And guess what, though? It's supposed to be the time where you're going to be winding down, where you're going to bed. So now you start to have almost this alertness at night, this feeling of tired but wired, where you're exhausted and you want to go to bed, but you can't get your brain to turn off and your body feels really restless. That's because it's finally built some cortisol for you to use, but it's too late. You're using it in the evening. This becomes a vicious cycle, and it's really hard for people to get out of. And whenever I'm talking with people, it's not that they've been in it for 1 month or 2 months, it's that they've been in it for 1 year or 3 years, where the cycle almost self-perpetuates. And the reason why it's so difficult to get out of is because the way that your body is asking for energy. So if you think about it, if we wake up and we're exhausted and we get a craving or we feel tired, there's only two things we can do: eat food or sleep again. 90% of you have an actual life or a career where you got to function, you got to run a business, you got to do work. So you can't just sleep again. Although that would, I'm sure, be nice for a lot of you. You can't have the luxury of sleeping in that moment. So you try to push through. Pushing through physical fatigue or physical tiredness is a stressor. Stressor uses more cortisol, and that burns your adrenals out even more, which causes more cravings, which causes you to feel more tired, which causes you to force through more. And then in forcing through more, you get more of the signal and the usage of your adrenals. So this becomes a self-perpetuating thing. And this is tough because the question then becomes, well, what do I do about it? like, Andrew, I'm not sure how to be able to break this fatigue. So here's how we tackle this fatigue. We don't tackle it from an aspect of getting more sleep, because you're already sleeping 7 to 8 hours every day and you're not feeling a result. We have to do this by repairing the thyroid and repairing the adrenals. If we don't give the thyroid and the adrenals the raw building blocks it needs on a consistent basis with food every single day, you're never going to repair this issue. So this largely comes down to the food piece. Now, the reason why when you go to someone like a naturopath, for example, you get some temporary energy is because they give you a lot of supplements to temporarily boost your thyroid or your adrenal function. They might put you on like a bovine gland or some type of a thyroid stimulant. And what that does is that increases your thyroid's ability to produce more, but it doesn't change the fact that it's running on limp mode. And it also doesn't change the fact that your adrenals are spent. So while on the supplements, you're going to feel okay. I mean, the majority of the time, people are like, well, I see a change, but I'm not like wowed by this change. And then by the time you start to feel good, you're probably 3 or 4 months into the supplements, you stop them, and then guess what? You have your fatigue return all over again. That's frustrating. And I see and I hear from people who are frustrated all the time, and I feel their frustration, because how the hell can you accomplish anything when you're exhausted? Exhaustion is literally the killer of desire and dreams. I don't care what kind of dream you have. If you're so tired you can barely keep your eyes open, you're not going to have a successful dream. You're not going to have a successful desire. You're going to feel a lack of motivation. You're going to feel this lack of doing anything. You don't even want to take action. And here's the thing, it's not your fault, because just like cortisol is that energy hormone naturally through the day, it's also one of our drivers for something like adrenaline. So how can we get excited about anything? How can we get amped or pumped about something when we don't have it in the gas tank to actually put that accelerator down? And so things start to spiral out of control. Usually you stop exercising because you think, well, I'm super tired already and exercise is making me feel worse. Maybe I'm just going to start slowing down my activity. Okay, that works initially, but then you still start feeling the fatigue again. So then you start eating a little bit more because your body's asking for more food. And then when it eats a little bit more, you start seeing things like your weight come up, then you start seeing your digestion slow down, and these other issues start to appear. It can be a vicious cycle, but it's not a vicious cycle that you have to stick around in. And all of the clients who work with us in both our Hormone Reboot program and our Vantage process, they 100% know, hey, I might feel like this way today, but I can take action right now. I can take the initiative. I can put the work in. And believe me, there is going to be work required to make changes with the food, to make sure that you're getting everything you need for your hormones. But the moment you take that initiative, all of a sudden that energy starts to change. And it doesn't take long for your body to start receiving energy. 3 weeks, 4 weeks, you start feeling like, oh, wow, I'm feeling good enough. Maybe I can start doing my workouts again. And then as you start getting in the activity, you find, oh, these workouts are giving me energy instead of making me super exhausted. How easy do you think it's going to be to stay consistent with a workout routine or to eat healthy when you're getting high levels of energy and you're feeling great through the process? That's like the main thing that sabotages everyone's goals, is you try something and it makes you feel like crap. So if you can fix the energy and it starts to make you feel good, then this becomes something consistent and clockwork that you can basically consistently work on your energy, consistently fuel your hormones. Your thyroid starts to repair itself. It starts to get into a functional state, and then it re-kickstarts your metabolism again. That's how it's supposed to work. Now, here's the thing with fatigue. When you're tired, putting one more thing on your plate is just a lot. And I know this because I struggled with like a year and a half of chronic fatigue, trying to get my hormones settled before I knew what to do. So, yes, at the beginning, you are going to be a little bit tired while trying to make these changes with food. So here's where I want to introduce a word to you that's really going to help with your chronic fatigue. This is going to be capacity, and a second word, focus rest. So capacity. What we have to do is we have to start taking away things from our routine that don't serve us, because we're all juggling a million and one things. And guess what? Not every single one of those things need to be tackled by us, or we need to do now in the moment. We often take on too much. We tend to be yes people where we say yes to everything, but actually we don't, like, after we take it on, we immediately regret it. And we're like, oh, why did I say yes to this thing? So capacity is about being super selective with your time and about removing things that don't matter to you and leaving that space open. You just need to breathe a little bit. You need to have a breather for you to recover some energy, enough energy for you to then take that action, for you to then start to put in things like meal prep, start eating regularly each and every week, start having high fats in your diet, start implementing like every 2.5 to 3 hours, you're eating slowly each and every time. Because if we don't have capacity, there's no way we're going to be able to cure our chronic fatigue and to be able to move forward with it. And, to the moving forward piece, a lot of people accept being tired as just normal. It's just a normal thing of like, you're going through your day-to-day actions, just accepting that it's your life. No, none of our clients accept that tired is something to be acceptable. You're not getting old. It's not a menopause thing. You're not getting up in your years. Doesn't matter what your doctor's telling you. Oh, it's a normal transition of your life. You're 40 or 50. Think about it this way. Eldest client that we're working with right now, she's 74 years old and her energy is freaking phenomenal. She trains 3 times a week and she's a machine. If a 74-year-old woman can have high energy levels, you can have high energy levels. There's no reason why you have to have fatigue or stick or suffer with low energy, because it's literally sabotaging everything in your life. Your relationships, you're not showing up at a high level because you're showing up at like 10%. Your physical self, obviously, that's burnt out. Your work, your business, how are you supposed to show up for your team? How are you supposed to run a company? How are you supposed to take care of a family if you're only got 10% or reserve in the gas tank? You just can't, and you shouldn't. That's a clear thing. So I talked about the first thing, okay? Now the second thing with chronic fatigue, which is really, really important. Once we make that space, we have to be very, very selective with not just keeping that space open, like I said, but then we start to have to optimize what we are doing day to day. The optimization of day to day is like, how can I find places or things or different items in my routine that I can do faster, that I can do simpler, that I can outsource or have someone else do, so you can buy back even more time. I am a huge believer in buying back time so I can focus more on me, because I can always make more money. I can't make more me time. I can't get a year from my life back. I can't, if I sleep 14 hours in a day, those hours are lost to me. So once I clear up that space, before I go and start saying, okay, now I have to start making time for me, I take a look at it and I say, well, what can I do within my routine? Who can I place within my routine? Who can I work with within my routine to make sure that I am maximizing what I am doing every single day? So if it looks like you hire a maid service to clean your house once a week so it can save you 3 hours, spend the $150. It's totally worth it. And you're probably spending the money somewhere else. If it means looking at your business or looking at your day-to-day work schedule and saying, okay, do I need to move clients around? Or how can I be able to function to optimize, maybe put emails first thing in the morning? Then you need to do that. You need to save that time. And then if it's something like, okay, I, for some reason, am still in my own way, I can't do it. This is where coaching and support comes into play. When I first worked with a coach who was a personal trainer, not even on the hormones, I learned so much about my lifestyle, about my routine, about my day-to-day habits that were affecting my energy than I did training. Because the workouts were just the initial part. And then you have to sleep well. You have to get recovery. You have to make sure you have your blackout curtains so that way you're going to bed or so your body's signaling sleep earlier. All of those things showed themselves as I started to take action on the other stuff, taking action on the food day to day, taking action on the exercise day to day. Because in order for me to get to the next level of exercise, I had to change my lifestyle. To take the next level of food, I had to change my routine. So this is why working with a coach is so incredibly powerful. And one of the things that I'm so fortunate about is the men and women who join our Vantage program and our Hormone Reboot program, they know 100%, like, I've been doing a routine and this routine's not working for me. And every time I keep changing stuff, it still doesn't work. So they are so self-aware to the point where they're like, hey, I'm taking action, but I know that what I'm taking action on is not the thing. And this is where when they reach out and they're looking to work with us, it's a simple part of looking at how their day-to-day operates, fitting themselves in first. It's always you first, family, and then the rest. And it should always be like that because you can't show up for your family if you're exhausted. You can't show up for work if you're tired. You can't show up for your business if you're burnt out or if you're sick every 3 to 5 days. And that's what makes you meant to grow. That's the biggest part that's going to basically like continue to grow your energy levels and also continue to grow your success as well too. So I wanted to share this quick little podcast episode because you do not have to be exhausted every single day. And it shows up in really simple things like the weight gain, like the cravings, like the tiredness, like the body temperature. But if left unchecked, is really going to throw off your day to day and it's going to mess you up. So take a look at how you can remove some things from your day. Start saying no more often, so you can then save that time to build up enough energy to start on the basic thing, which is nutrition. Working on eating right for your body type, working to balance those hormones using food. And if you don't know how to do that, literally in the show notes, www.fitforallfitness.com, the number 4, you can take a look at the Hormone Reboot program or the Vantage program. Both of them do something completely different. The Hormone Reboot is designed exactly for what it says, to rebalance and to restabilize your hormones. And it literally takes 8 weeks. It's super quick. It's super simple. And the best part about it is you get the energy back ASAP. Or if you're looking to lose that 30 to 50 pounds and you're kind of in that struggle zone and the energy is also an issue, the Vantage program is phenomenal for that. It's 16 weeks. It has a weight loss guarantee because everything that we back behind, we know works. So why wouldn't I offer a guarantee? It's just easy peasy. Okay. Something to put out there for you guys so that way you know you do not have to live with the chronic fatigue. Thanks so much for listening to the episode. One thing as well, too, if you guys follow me on Instagram, that's going to be the Andrew _hormone helper on Insta. I'm going to be going live and I'm going to be posting daily tips, tools, advice. I have a little mini series that's basically like a Hey Coach Andrew, where if under the Hey Coach Andrew video, you drop a question, any question like, hey, Coach Andrew, I'm struggling with weight loss. How do I do this? Whatever that question is, any single question that is under a Hey Coach Andrew video, basically I'm going to do another video and answer your question and either answer it live or answer it in a recording. So I encourage you guys to check me out at Instagram. I'll drop the name or the tag, I think it's called, for Insta in the show notes. Otherwise, if you guys are listening and whatever, you're in the drive and you can't look at the show notes, go to Andrew_hormone helper, and then you're going to see me and you're going to see all the videos there. So hope to see you on Instagram as well. Thanks so much for listening to the podcast, and we will catch you guys later. Bye. Well, it seems I'm all out of info juice for today. That's all for this episode, and thank you so much for listening. Please leave a raving review for me if you've learned something good, and make sure to subscribe to the podcast so you don't miss an episode. Now, if you're in the mood for some more great content and tools to get your hormones on track, why not check out our free Facebook group and the blog on our site? We do amazing weekly trainings in our group that me and my wife call Tea and Teachings that give good tips for anything hormones and metabolism related. It's also a great community where you get to share your goals and success with like-minded people just like you. I'll make sure to drop both the Facebook group link and the blog link in the show notes for you. Or if you're ambitious like me, the name of the group is Weight Loss and Balanced Hormones. It'll say Fit for All beside it with a picture of me. So come and join us and have more fun.